¿Alguna vez se preguntaron, en lo que va de esta presidencia de Trump, qué tan incompetente puede ser la gente que dirige este país? Porque honestamente cada semana parece una competencia por ver quién toma la peor decisión posible. Y amigos, eso no es una casualidad. Figuras como Donald Trump, como Elon Musk, como Roosevelt, como Mike Johnson, están cómodos en medio del caos. Les encanta esta sensación del desorden. Porque al parecer mientras más confundida está la gente, más fácil es para ellos hacernos creer que el gobierno no sirve para nada. Ese es el objetivo, hacernos perder la fe en el sistema, para luego desmantelarlo por completo. Y lo peor o lo más vergonzoso es que hemos visto hasta el momento, vino gracias a una llamada filtrada que ha dejado en evidencia el nivel de ineptitud que rodea este gabinete. Donald Trump está muy interesado en destruir el gobierno desde adentro. Pero hay ciertos temas que no quieren que sepas que está afectando. Por eso, amigos, antes de que entremos en lleno con esta llamada filtrada, quiero que vean este momento en el que claramente lo ponen incómodo.
Consider some of the proposals on the table in co-pay provider tax as a benefit cut. How are you viewing those?
No, we are looking at one thing. We're not doing any cutting of anything meaningful. The only thing we're cutting is waste, fraud, and abuse. With Medicaid, waste, fraud, and abuse. There's tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. There's incompetent things putting. We have illegal aliens that are multiple killers with multiple murder records getting Medicaid. I don't think anybody minds if we cut that. The Democrats, on the other hand, are going to destroy it because they're going to leave these people on. We're cutting three things: waste, fraud, and abuse. We're not changing Medicaid, and we're not changing Medicare, and we're not changing Social Security. And if I wanted to do those things, I would have done it during my 4 years that we were.
Como era de esperarse, Donald Trump está mintiendo. Están recortando Medicaid por más de 800.000 millones de dólares. Y sí, señores, también están tras el seguro social. Solo con su torpeza ya han causado daños reales a programas que millones de personas necesitan para sobrevivir. Y claro, todo esto forma parte de una estrategia, ¿no? Nunca se trató de mejorar la eficiencia. Este nuevo presupuesto es el más costoso en toda la historia del país. Solo en el tema del gasto militar supera el $1.000.000.000. Y mientras tanto, Trump, el mismo que prometía acabar con el despilfarro, ahora presume de haberlo aumentado. No les importa lo que dicen defender. Ya lo sabemos, cuando los republicanos acusan algo, normalmente se están describiendo ellos mismos. Y eso lo dejó en claro uno de sus aliados más visibles, Ron Paul. Escuchen ustedes mismos.
Spending. Somebody has to stand up and yell, the emperor has no clothes, and everybody's falling in lockstep on this. Pass the big, beautiful bill. Don't question anything. Well, conservatives do need to stand up and have their voice heard. This is a problem we've been facing for decades now, and if we don't stand up on it, I really fear the direction the country is going.
The senator, or excuse me, the speaker.
Cuando hasta los republicanos, los mismos que solían aplaudir todo lo que hacía Trump, empiezan a decir que el emperador está desnudo, algo grave está pasando. Y cuando hasta lo dicen Fox News, ya no quedan dudas. Esto ya no se puede ocultar. Este presupuesto va a dañar profundamente el futuro del país, tal y como lo advirtió Ron Johnson. Esto va a afectar a generaciones enteras. Pero de nuevo, ¿no? Esa es la idea. No saben lo que hacen, y la llamada filtrada de la que hablamos, una que reveló Jen Psaki, lo demuestra todo. Un retrato de lo ridículo, pero también de lo peligroso, que puede ser este nivel de incompetencia. Escuchemos.
Months now, all across the country, Social Security recipients are dealing with an unbelievable amount of chaos and confusion. But rather than focusing on those ideas, Dozier's been firing workers by the thousands, pushing thousands more to retire, and devoting tons of resources to hunt for almost completely non-existent fraud. Case in point, I mean, last week, the publication NextGov obtained internal Social Security documents showing how Doge went looking for phone-specific fraud and found almost none. And I literally mean almost none. To be exact, Doge used a new anti-fraud tool on 110,000 claims made over the phone, 110,000, and only found 2 that might potentially be fraudulent. 2. But that anti-fraud tool slowed retirement claim processing by 25% across the board. Great job, guys. Good job on that one. Now, Social Security just got a new leader, a new commissioner of Social Security. Frank Bisognano was sworn into the role just a week and a half ago. And I wish I could tell you that Commissioner Bisognano was just the man for the job. I wish I could tell you that he definitely knows what he's doing and will just turn this whole thing around. But yesterday, ABC News obtained audio of Commissioner Bisognano telling his staff about when he first got offered his new gig. So take a listen to that.
I get a phone call, and it's about Social Security, and I'm really not, I swear I'm not looking for a job. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do? So I'm Googling Social Security, you know, one of my great skills. I'm one of the great Googlers on the East Coast. I'm like, what the heck's the commissioner of Social Security?
What the heck is the commissioner of Social Security was his last question as he's telling the story of learning he was going to be exactly that. You are now the commissioner of Social Security, sir. You are it. And for all our sakes, I hope Google is giving you lots of good answers on how to fix your agency, since you're the Googler guy.
Y es que la persona que Trump puso al mando del Seguro Social ni siquiera sabía lo que tenía que hacer. O sea, literalmente estaba buscando en Google cuáles eran sus funciones. No le preguntó a nadie de la administración, no se asesoró con expertos, simplemente se puso a improvisar. O sea, como si manejar uno de los pilares del bienestar social más importante fuese tan solo un experimento. Yo les pregunto a ustedes, ¿esto no debería de asustarnos? ¿De verdad ese es el estándar actualmente en Estados Unidos? ¿Dónde quedó aquella promesa de traer a los mejores de entre los mejores? ¿Recuerdan, no? Ese discurso de meritocracia. Y amigos, esto también lo está denunciando Greg Casar, quien habló claro sobre los ataques al Seguro Social. Escuchen esto.
What is happening right now at the Social Security Administration should horrify all of us. People organized and fought and pushed back to build Social Security in the 1930s. It's this incredible program, a lifeline not only just for our seniors, but for so many young people and people with disabilities and people who've had their parents die. There's just so much that Social Security does for millions of Americans. And Trump brought in Elon Musk to say that he was going to make things more efficient. But all he has done is either broken things or made things more efficient for his own pockets, but not for anybody else. They have gotten rid of over 3,000 people at the Social Security Administration. They have threatened to cut the Social Security Administration in half. And get this, they've talked about shutting off the phone lines because they say that there are just too many people that are committing fraud in the Social Security Administration. They want to say, oh, you aren't who you really say you are. You need to drive in and verify yourself in person. Don't mind us. We already sold off a bunch of the Social Security offices to give tax breaks to our friends. That's how this works. They know that they think that it's too toxic for them to put Social Security cuts into the bills. And so instead what they're doing is trying to undermine the entire Social Security system itself. And we can't fall for that kind of a scam because what they're doing is calling seniors fraudsters when we know it's seniors that rely on this so badly. They want to say that they are cutting these payments because they're going after waste, fraud, and abuse when, as we heard earlier, the real waste is the gigantic companies that get huge contracts and milk money off of our healthcare, milk money off of our seniors. For example, in the Medicare Advantage program, we know Big Pharma takes advantage of us by tens of billions of dollars a year. If you want to talk about real fraud, it is these billionaires with their offshore bank accounts. Actually, if you want to talk about real abuse, get this. Is there anybody here that, works a job and you pay into Social Security every paycheck? You see that little amount that comes off? Raise your hand if that's happening. Anybody here, like after your first day or your first paycheck, you stop paying into Social Security? There's not any billionaires here. Do you know Elon Musk, I'm not exaggerating this, 15 minutes into January 1st of every year is done paying into Social Security? Do you know that? What do you mean? What we mean is here, once you start making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, you just stop paying into Social Security. Do you guys know that? They pay a lower rate. The folks that are going to clean this room after we leave pay a rate into Social Security astronomically higher than millionaires and billionaires. Can you guys believe that? That's the actual abuse of the Social Security system. That is the real problem. And so they want to make it seem like we're the problem when they're the problem.
Pero amigos, claramente es un desastre. Claro que va a perjudicar a la gente. Claro que Trump está yendo tras tu jubilación. Y eso no debería de sorprendernos. Lo más patético es que ni los republicanos saben cómo justificarlo, cuando ni siquiera ellos pueden inventar una mentira convincente para poder defenderse, porque están acorralados. Fue exactamente lo que vimos en este momento con Mike Johnson.
The greatest economy in the history of the world, not just the U.S., because we followed a very simple formula. We cut taxes and we cut regulations.
You didn't do it in the middle of a tariff war.
On steroids.
In the first administration, there was sequencing. You got tax reform. The Republicans got tax reform through and held off the tariff war. Goldman Sachs says the hit to growth from tariffs will more than offset the boost to growth from the fiscal package. That's Goldman Sachs.
Well, I know. I respect Goldman Sachs, but I think what they're discounting here is the growth that will be spurred on by this legislation and the fact that the so-called tariff war is beginning to subside already. You've got over 75 countries that are negotiating new, more fair trade agreements for the U.S. right now because of the president's insistence that that be done, and it was decades overdue. That is going to benefit every American. It's going to benefit the consumers. You know, they howled when the first reciprocal tariffs policy was announced, and they said that prices would skyrocket. That simply hasn't happened. Many of those early estimates were far off, and that's being proven now. So what I think will happen is the tariffs, contest will subside. This legislation will pass and get the economy going again, and people will feel that. They'll see it in their own pocketbooks and their own opportunity, and every American household is going to benefit by these policies.
You know, Walmart has already said that it will have to raise prices. It's not theoretical, and the president on Friday was talking about even more tariffs, this time on Apple and others.
Y repito, amigos, no tienen argumentos, no tienen discurso, están tambaleando. Ni siquiera sé qué parte de este gran y hermoso presupuesto, tal y como lo llaman, lo cual es ridículo, puede pasar por el Senado. Pero lo que sí sabemos es que los republicanos están quebrándose. Se están empezando a desmarcar de Trump. Recordemos que hasta Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez lo dijo. La presión pública está funcionando. Pues bueno, amigos, ahora pasemos al siguiente tema, y es que no sé si están al tanto, pero resulta que Trump organizó una cena privada en su club de golf, donde más de 200 millonarios, al parecer, pagaron en promedio 1.8 millones de dólares para poder comprar una criptomoneda que lleva su nombre y poder cenar con él. Antes de que diga alguien, bueno, es su tiempo libre, puede hacer lo que quiera, esperen a ver esto.
Lavish Virginia Golf Club, where over 200 ultra-wealthy investors bought exclusive access to the president. In total, the guests spent $394 million on Trump's meme coin, which averages out to about $1.8 million each. Now, that is an expensive, fancy dinner. Some of the high-profile guests included tech CEO Jack Lew, former Lakers power forward Lamar Odom, and top Trump coin buyer Justin Sun, who was sued by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission in 2023 over alleged fraud. That case is still pending, although NBC reports the SEC is exploring a possible settlement or dismissal following Trump's second inauguration. And after the White House insisted his dinner was a private event, Trump gave a speech with a podium that had the presidential seal, raising even more concerns about how he's profiting off of his presidency. So with us now is Assistant Democratic Leader and Colorado Congressman Joe Neguse. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. I am guessing you weren't at the crypto dinner the other night.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Good to be with you. Yeah, I was not at that outrageous dinner.
What do you make of it? It is just so blatant and catering to the wealthy. I just can't imagine if any other president had said they were taking a night off to host a dinner where people had to pay almost $2 million to have a seat at the table.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Blatant is the right word. It is outrageous. It's the type of brazen corruption that should shock the conscience of every American. It's the type of brazen corruption that, frankly, we haven't seen probably since a century. I mean, you have to go back to the Teapot Dome scandal of the 1920s to find this kind of corruption within the executive branch. And the fact that my Republican colleagues have done nothing to condemn it or even call it into question is shameful. In any functioning Congress, this type of conduct would already be investigated. But of course, that is not the case under a Republican majority in the House as it exists today.
Congressman, for folks who are having trouble paying their bills, who eggs are too expensive, they have to, make sure their kids are getting off to school on time. They have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 jobs right now. Why should they care about a dinner like this? Why should they care that these powerful people with all of this money are getting this amount of access to the president?
That's a great question. I think there's a risk of viewing these developments, these scandals, myopically as opposed to holistically, right? And when you consider the events of this past week, this outrageous, corrupt dinner that the president hosted for billionaires that are padding the pockets of him and his family, coupled with the legislation, the budget reconciliation bill, the tax scam that House Republicans muscled through in Washington this week that would gut health care for millions of Americans, that would deprive millions of single mothers, of children, of seniors, of food assistance, all to pay for tax cuts for the richest Americans, for billionaires in our country. It gives you a clearer sense of this administration's priorities. At the end of the day, this administration has forgotten the middle class. The Trump administration does not care about helping make the lives of the American people, of the average American, better, and instead are focused exclusively on the top 10, top 1% of the country. And ultimately, I think that the voters see it for what it is, and they will render their verdict come next November.
Congressman, it also seems like the president and his administration don't care about optics or ethics. I mean, when the White House press secretary was asked about this dinner, she said it was personal time, that the president was at a private event. But as we showed in the clip, in the intro of this segment, he's standing at a podium with the presidential seal. So can you please explain to the American people why they should be upset that the president of the United States, with the seal in front of him, you can see it right there, that he is using the office to enrich himself?
Yeah, I mean, look, Jonathan, you said it well. The corruption in this instance is very clear cut. It's not a difficult scenario for the American people to understand. The fact that you have billionaires, including some who are foreign billionaires. We don't, of course, know because the White House has not detailed or released publicly the list of attendees at that dinner. But these are individuals who are investing directly in this meme coin that the president personally profits from to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. And in return, they get an exclusive dinner with the president of the United States and who knows what else. And of course, Jonathan, as you know, this president was very critical of the crypto industry just a few short years ago. Of course, we know what changed in that short period of time. He's now making a lot of money from the industry. So, yeah, make no mistake. I think the American people get it. They understand the reason that the administration has been unable or perhaps unwilling to even try to offer a cogent rationale or explanation for their conduct. Of course, they know none exists, but also they know that they will not be held accountable by this Republican Congress. So they have no fear as to any potential investigations or any effort to hold the administration to the standards that have governed the executive branch since time immemorial.
Congressman, let's move on to the budget bill. Just got through the House. What are your concerns with the bill, and what do you foresee any changes or any more sweeteners added in the Senate so that to get those wavering Senate, the wobbly ones, on board?
Well, I certainly fear what sweeteners, as you said, the Republicans in the Senate may offer to their colleagues to get this bill to the president's desk, given the process that the bill went through in the House. As you know, they passed this bill in the dead of night. We participated in a 21-hour unprecedented legislative markup of the bill in the Rules Committee. And as the hours went on, they scheduled this hearing for 1 a.m. because they understood that they couldn't defend the bill in the light of day. And as the hearing went on, we learned more and more about various provisions that had been added to the bill in an attempt to buy the support of our colleagues. And one of those provisions, just by way of example, is a provision to deregulate firearm silencers. These are silencers that have been regulated since 1934, since the days of Al Capone and John Dillinger. And House Republicans decided that this was in the best interests, apparently, of the American public to include this provision at the 11th hour. There are a variety of others, a provision that they included as a tax break to tanning salon owners, which was only removed after we had shamed our colleagues during the course of the hearing, such that I assume, concluded that it was not in their best interest to move forward with it. So we'll see, but they barely got the bill through the House. It passed on a party line vote and only passed with one vote, essentially, right? One vote margin. So I believe that ultimately, if the outcry is loud enough, if we make the case in the court of public opinion, that we can hopefully defeat this bill in the United States Senate and avert the calamity that it would create for working families across Colorado and the United States.
Congressman, you're a member of leadership. You called what we're seeing with President Trump and his administration brazen corruption. You know, there's a few ways to curry favor with President Trump. That's the crypto lane, the Trump properties, buying stock in Trump media is another one. As you guys said, to enrich himself and his family. If Democrats take back the House next November, when you guys walk in January, are you guys going to commit to starting to investigate these things on behalf of the American people?
Yeah, what I would say, Eugene, is that ultimately, at the end of the day, the American people deserve a government that is ethical and responsive to their concerns, to the concerns of working families, not to billionaires, and ultimately not a government that is, constituted of people who are enriching themselves. You see that at the White House. By the way, you see that in the Congress with my Republican colleagues trading stocks, as you know, enriching their own stock portfolios instead of focusing on their constituents. We will engage in vigorous oversight. You have folks like my colleague Jamie Raskin, who's the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, who understands these issues quite well. And make no mistake, we'll certainly perform our constitutional duties under Article 1 of the Constitution.
Ok, amigos, se fijaron en ese pequeño detalle, ¿no? El tipo está en un evento supuestamente privado, pero usa el sello presidencial. Usa el podio oficial, como si estuviera dando una conferencia de Estado. Amigos, esto no es un simple acto personal, no, amigos. Es Trump el empresario. Es Donald Trump usando su posición como presidente para hacer negocios con criptomonedas. Y lo peor es que ni siquiera se esconde, ¿no? O sea, lo hace totalmente al descarado. Usa símbolos del gobierno para ser legítimo. Una cena en la cual, ojo, se vendieron 394 millones de dólares en una moneda sin ningún respaldo real más que su propia imagen. Señoras y señores, esto se llama conflicto de intereses. Y en cualquier otro país sería un escándalo gigante. ¿Se imaginan que un presidente en funciones, en España por ejemplo, México o tal vez hasta Argentina por hoy, ¿no? Hagan eso. Ahora seguro alguien dirá, bueno, pero es su marca, es un hombre de negocios, no está usando fondos públicos directamente. Y sí, es cierto. Nadie dice que haya sacado plata del Estado para hacer esta cena, pero el problema no es ese. El problema es el uso de poder político para el beneficio personal. Cuando tú eres un presidente, tú no te puedes separar de tu imagen pública con los negocios privados. Y si tú encima usas símbolos del gobierno para querer promocionar un producto tuyo, ahí, amigos, estás haciendo negocio con el Estado. Punto final. Además, ¿quiénes estaban en esta cena? Empresarios, figuras del mundo cripto, gente que seguramente espera favores, contratos o simplemente un acceso privilegiado. Amigos, aquí no tenemos libertad de mercado. Eso es venta de influencias. Para cerrar esto, lo que vimos con Trump no es solo inmoral, es peligroso, porque normaliza que el poder sea utilizado como una marca personal, como una herramienta de marketing para llenarte los bolsillos. ¿Queremos líderes o queremos influencers con ejército? ¿Qué opinan ustedes? ¿Les parece que fue corrupción o simplemente negocios al estilo trumpista? ¿Creen que otros políticos hacen lo mismo, pero con más sutileza? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Recuerda, como siempre, dale like, compártelo con tus amigos y suscríbete a nuestro canal Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.